Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be a Leader podcast, where we talk about current events in sports, military, and business through the lens of leadership. So today I'm recording this, and we are about to start the NBA Finals. By the time you're watching this, it's probably already been happening or have already happened. But it is an exciting time. I remember this as a kid watching the NBA Finals, and we have two great teams, the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs. Completely different teams on different ends of the spectrums, but in a very exciting finals matchup. And so, you know me, I'm not going to look at just statistics or these type of things. We're going to learn from both these teams. What can we learn from the leadership perspective from both these teams? And I do have 5 things I want to talk about these teams, and it's going to help us as we build our own teams to reflect on our own teams. And they could not be any different. The Spurs. I mean, I remember a little bit of Michael Jordan 1998 when he won with the Bulls, and then the next year was the Knicks and the Spurs in 1999. And I remember the Spurs winning in 1999 and 2003 and 2005 and 2007 and 2014. I was active duty in the Marine Corps in 2014, and they haven't been to the finals since. So it's been a little bit. But the Knicks, it's like I forgot they even existed, right? Being in the NBA Finals just is weird since 1999. Now that it's a rematch all these years later. But they're very different in terms of the style of play, the main players. I think 2 things that stick out to me right now is the Spurs are very structured and how they were built, and how they play, whereas the Knicks are very hot. And as I say often with basketball, just in general, whether it's high school, college basketball, hot teams are dangerous teams. And the Knicks are very hot right now. And so we're getting a clash of 2 different styles. Who's going to win? That's going to be the interesting thing. And I will give away my prediction at the end of this episode. But let's dive in to these 2 teams. What can we learn? What type of team are you building? So the first thing that I want to talk about when I think about the Knicks and the Spurs in the NBA Finals is that idea of having that one irreducible superpower. You can call it your competitive advantage, but they both have clear, and I'm starting here because everyone thinks about the stars for both teams. We have Jalen Brunson with the New York Knicks, a 6'2" guard, 8-year veteran in the NBA. Yes, he did beat Michigan and San Antonio in the championship game in 2018, was part of Villanova. But he's a great guard, 8 years in, okay, 29 years old. And then the other side, you have Wembanyama, Victor Wembanyama, who's a 22-year-old, third year in the NBA, French player, 7'4", 8-foot wingspan. So he's massive, and he can do things that no one can do. He can drive, he can dunk, he can pull up shot, he can do everything. Doesn't even make sense. He is what I used to build in my old NBA 2Ks and 2K1s. The freak tall athlete that can do it all. That's Victor in the flesh. He's phenomenal. And they're both very different, right? Jalen is the guard, so he runs with the ball, and a lot of players compliment him. Good rebounding, good shooting, good defense. And on the other side with Victor, he's not the guy with the ball, but everyone floats around him, and he really impacts the defense too. That's the crazy thing about him. He changes the floor when he's on the floor on the defensive side, and the offense he can do it all. So it's very interesting, and everyone kind of supports them on both sides. So I think the clear thing here is, what is your one superpower? Do you know what it is? Are you very clear on that? That really sets up everything that we're going to talk about in the rest of this episode. But they both have very clear number one persons that they build around, and it can be your competitive advantage. What is that one thing? You always get asked that question when you're building a startup. What's the big difference? The so what factor, right? They both have very clear so what factors. What makes them very unique is very important for them. And I think here, the question that comes to my mind, maybe not yours, is who would I rather have? Would I have the small guard that has a lot of experience in Brunson, or the tall superstar that just doesn't even make sense in Victor Wembanyama? And I go back, they're both very compelling. Brunson plays very hard. He is committed. He's nonstop. We're going to talk about him a little bit more in a little bit, but he's very determined. He's extremely competitive in a day and age where I would assess that competitiveness is not as good in the NBA as it used to be in terms of individual players. He is high. He spikes there on that side. Victor Wembanyama brings a lot of joy. He loves to play. You can see the emotion, especially in the Western Conference Finals when they beat Oklahoma City Thunder. He loves to play. He loves his guys. He talks about that all the time. I love seeing the joy, and I love seeing him play. He definitely seems younger, so he needs more molding. And I love big men. I love coaching big men. He would be more fun to coach. He would be someone I would want long term. But right now in these finals and this year, Brunson would be the one. If I had to pick between the two, he's the one I would want right now. He has experience. He has a very clear identity, a very clear drive. He knows who he is and what he's going to do. And he does not back down. And because he's a guard, the ball starts in his hands every possession, whereas Victor doesn't always. We've seen struggles with the Spurs not doing well because Victor doesn't hardly touches the ball or hardly shoots in one half. That's usually when they play poorly. Brunson, he's always touching the ball. So either he's missing shots or he's going to make his next one. He's going to get to the free throw line. So for this series, I would choose Brunson. Long term, I would choose Wembanyama. So anyways, is that a cop-out? I don't know, but that's a different perspective, being a coach, right? Since I am a coach, since I've coached college basketball, and now I'm the head coach at the varsity high school level here in Dallas, Texas. So anyways, be very clear on your superpower, your competitive advantage. That leads into the culture. Again, when I'm thinking about the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals, the culture is key. Okay, and when we talk about culture, it goes back to my IBR framework: identity, behavior, results. It starts with having a very clear identity. Who are you? And we're known by our behaviors, right? So culture, you need to identify it, but then you got to live that culture. Okay, and then the results come. They're very two different cultures. So again, a clash of different styles. Not only do we have one in the Northeast and one in the South in Texas, not only do they have one led by a small guard and one led by a giant, but we have different styles of culture. When I think about the Knicks, I think about this kind of composed violence. It's like this bundle of violence all put together. They're calm, they're not loud, they have long possessions, they can do traps, but they have a lot of maturity. They have a lot of experience, this team. And so they know, it's almost as if they say, we're tough and we're serious and we can do this. That's the culture I think of when I look at the New York Knicks. The Spurs are very different. They're very young. I think they're the second youngest team. The last team that was this young was back in the 70s with the Portland Trailblazers. It's been a long time with Walton, right? It's been a long time. But the Spurs are young. They're very fast. They have a lot of cockiness in a good way that lets them play well. A lot of confidence for their age. But they've built the confidence too. Let's not forget, they did beat the Oklahoma City Thunder in 7 at Oklahoma City. That is a big deal. I would say in the conference finals, out of the 4 teams, Oklahoma City Thunder was the best team. They had the most consistency. Their superstar and SGA was very consistent, very good. They had the most wins out of the whole season, and they were the defending national NBA champions. And it was interesting in an interview with Wembanyama starting before the NBA Finals. They asked him, like, why do you have so much confidence going in? He says, because we beat the best team. He said Oklahoma City, they're very good because they have, these are his words, a very clear identity is what he said. Because it's true, identity, behavior, results. It's universal. So a very clear identity. They have the experience, they have the superpower, and they're the champions, and we beat them. And knowing that we could do it with them, we can do it with the New York Knicks, is what he said. So they have that experience, but again, they're very fast. They're very, they're not as even, right? They have games where they shoot the lights out, and they have games where they give up 40 points in one quarter, which is really bad if you don't know. So the key here again is they're both championship level. They both won their conference champions, so they are champions, and now they're trying to go for the NBA championship. And they're both very different styles, very different cultures. But the key thing again is choose one. Own it. Live through it. Call out the good, call out the bad, and make sure you are in alignment. That identity, the behavior, the reason why the behavior there is because the behavior in the IBR framework, you need alignment between the behavior and the identity. The alignment is key because that's where the results come. You can say we're going to a fast-paced team, and you never do it in the game. You're not going to get the results you want. You can say we're a very patient team, but then you're just shooting every three-pointer you can. It's not in alignment. You're not going to get the results you want. Both teams have very clear identities and cultures, and they have great alignment, and here they are as conference champions already going after the NBA championship. So choose one, own it. You can't have it all. Okay. Let's go on to the third point here. And it leads into culture. When I work with startup founders, and we're talking about how to build the identity of the company, what's the long-term vision, the mission, the vision, the values, what is the culture? I tell them the easiest way to build the culture is to hire the culture. Hire people that already are in alignment with that identity and already do the behaviors. They're a natural fit. People exist out there. Sometimes we're in a rush to try to just fill a boat space, as we'd say in the Marine Corps, a boat space, or just quickly just grabbing bodies. Find someone who's in a perfect alignment, and it makes everything better. It makes everyone better. And so hiring is the key. And that's kind of the third lesson here when I think about the New York Knicks, San Antonio Spurs. They both hired the culture. That's how they built the culture. They hired it. Now they went through different routes. And that's where we're going to go again. Okay? When we look at the Knicks, it was by bringing in experience. Talked about this previously in the last episode, but Brunson, it was the catalyst. He's the number one guy. He was a free agent. He had opportunity to go places for more money or more loaded rosters, but he knew he wanted to be a New York Knick because he grew up in New Jersey because his dad played for the New York Knicks back in the day, which is very, it's nice to have. And his dad is a current assistant coach on the bench with him, which is very nice to have. So he's very blessed in that regard. But he knew he wanted to be a Knick above anything else. And that is everything. That identity is so strong. And then they brought in other players who realized because Brunson has that strong leadership quality, they realized I don't want to just be part of a team or a winning team. I also want to be a Knick. I want to embrace the city and this culture. And they started they brought in Towns, who's a great player. They brought in Bridges. They brought in other key players here. And I like Bridges because he was also part of that Villanova squad with Brunson, so they go a lot way back. But they started bringing other players, other people in there. We'll talk about the coach here in a second. But they assembled it through experience, through free agents. The Spurs are a different way. They had long-term focus. Okay, we'll talk about Coach Popovich here in a little bit. But they really were long-term game because they've done that, right? We look at Tim Duncan and the role players around him, Ginobili, Tony Parker, all those guys. They built something that was long-term. And when that path started to end in the later 2000s, that's when they brought in Kawhi Leonard. He was supposed to be the next guy, the next franchise. And they built him into an NBA superstar, NBA champion. And as people know, there was friction with his family. They didn't want to be in a small market. They thought he deserved better than San Antonio, and they essentially pushed him out. And he's been, in Los Angeles for the last few years with the Clippers. But they put everything in him, and they built him in the championship, and then he left. And so it was part of this waiting game. Well, who's the next franchise player? And they selected Victor Wembanyama, number one overall pick in 2023. And they've continued to find their talent through the draft. So again, not experienced players like the Knicks, but through the draft. They brought in Castle, great player, UConn, and NCAA champion. And UConn, Dylan Harper played in the Big Ten with Rutgers. And then they brought in some other players here and there to fill in, but a lot of it has been long-term focused and through the draft. And guess what? They both made it to the finals. There's different ways. Okay, I can't remember if I mentioned this already, but one of the things in the Marine Corps, my experience was, I got in and like every young motivated lieutenant, I just couldn't wait to get out the fleet. And we have publications on leadership. It's called Leading Marines. You can look it up. And it's a small little book, but it talks about how we build and lead Marines, how we become leaders. And one of the things that really drew to me as I was getting in the Marine Corps was this idea of you have to allow people to kind of figure out their leadership styles, figure out what works for them. They have to make mistakes. They have to be allowed to make mistakes so they can grow. Otherwise, they're not going to grow. And so I was so enthusiastic about, yes, I'm going to learn these qualities that really make me a great leader because I wanted to bring it back to college basketball because I worked for John Beilein, University of Michigan. I wanted to be like him. And then I was under some captains that really challenged that thought. They're like, this is the right way. And if you're not doing it my way, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. I got that told so many times as a second lieutenant, first lieutenant, get told by captains, you're wrong. You're wrong. This is the only way. And it really suffocated me. And it wasn't until later that I became a captain that I had fresh air and I was able to make a lot of decisions. And then I really was able to discover my own leadership style. And I was really able to bloom. And I was really able to make very great Marines, very great units. Like we were all stars because I was able to finally learn my leadership style. And it really showed that answer that there's multiple ways. Everyone has their own leadership style. There's not only one way. And I bring that here because, again, we're talking about two different teams. There's many ways to win. But you got to find that authentic alignment of who you are and what those behaviors are to get those results. And here we're seeing two different cultures. They're both winning cultures. Okay. The Spurs beat the best team in the NBA in 7 games with their, home court advantage to the Thunder. They beat them. And the Knicks have won 11 games in a row in the playoffs, which is absurd. They both work. One's fast, one's slow. One's old, one's young. One's patient, one's fast. One's structured, one's been compiled together, right? They both work, but you have to choose and you have to commit. And oftentimes that's the hardest thing. It's hard to look at all your options and commit. That's what coaching is a lot of fun for me, right? Be able to bring in that clarity. Part of confidence is having clarity. It's the core, my core principle, CORE, the core of confidence. The first one is clarity, and there's a few things that need to be clear, and identity is a big part of it, right? So you got to commit. You got to figure it. You have to be very clear, and you got to commit. Anyways, let's move on to the fourth point here on the big differences with the San Antonio Spurs and the New York Knicks going here into the NBA Finals. And that's going to talk about succession planning. So they're very different styles. I definitely have a preference, but they have both been working. So with the Spurs, there was succession planning. Coach Popovich was there for a long time. He found success, and they wanted to continue that success and continue that culture. And so part of that was building coaches to take over. And that's where Mitch Johnson was part of that system and had a lot of experience coaching, some assistant coach, some head coach, and was already kind of built in that system to carry that legacy. That's a great succession plan. On the other side, with the New York Knicks, they're a little bit different. They've had more or less disaster for 27 years, but they also valued experience. So instead of building and bringing in a young coach who didn't have a lot of experience, they wanted someone with experience, and they found one with Mike Brown. Now he's been a head coach and assistant coach in many places. He has been fired from places like Sacramento Kings. We forget that they're still in the NBA, but they are. And he's been fired from the Lakers. He's been fired from the Cavs twice. But he has had some success as an assistant coach with the Warriors, and they brought him in. And it's kind of this reinvention. Like the Knicks have been trying to reinvent themselves for a long time, so they kind of needed a coach to also feel like he's reinventing himself, and they brought him in here. So in general, I would say succession planning, having a plan long term, is better than kind of scrambling. But the scramble can work if you find that great alignment. Again, it goes back to the alignment, the identity, the behavior to lead to the results. And it has shown that it's been working right now for the Knicks. So two different styles. However, I would clearly, based on my background in the Marine Corps, McKinsey & Company coach, college basketball, building a startup, all the things that I've done, I would lead towards having succession planning, having a long-term plan, and make sure you're building that direction. Because you can do it the scramble, but it can be a challenge. And right now, it is working for the Knicks. So, I mean, I've said a few things about the challenges of leading a team and building a team. And this is where a lot of people have challenges leading themselves. My Confident Leader Bootcamp is a program. It's a 10-week live course program where you meet with me and others for 1 hour a week over 10 weeks. And it is designed to help you build confidence in yourself, be able to lead yourself and lead others. And we'll go through the IBR framework, identity, behavior, results for everyone. We go through the core, CORE, for confidence. What is the core of confidence? Confidence under pressure is my specialty. I will help you find clarity, build confidence, so you can lead yourself and lead others. No longer will you be questioning, who am I? What am I supposed to do? How do I do it? How do I do it under pressure? Because we mold you and then we pressure test you so that you are ready when you leave. It is fantastic. Just look at the testimonials on my website. We do start here in a few days in June. So time's running short to enroll. We already have several people. We'd love to you join, but it is capped. So take a look if that is of interest. It will change your life. It will change your life, guaranteed. So let's wrap this up on the last one. The fifth lesson is the importance of role players. Okay? Non-stars, role players are critical to winning a championship. You've got to have it, and both teams have it. With the Knicks, you have several like Shamet, great three-point shooter, Robinson, maybe not best free throw shooter, but he gets offensive buckets like it's going out of style, and people love his personality. McBride, it's already talked about Bridges. They do a lot. They got some length they can play. On the Spurs, you have some young guys that are really hungry. I already talked about Harper coming out of Rutgers. Champagne, great three-point shooter. Keldon Johnson, sixth man of the year, has some experience. Cornette comes in to protect the rim when Wembanyama has to go sit. They are very important. And let's do a contrast real quick, because the Oklahoma City Thunders I already talked about were, in my opinion, the best team in the NBA. Statistically, through the regular season, and I thought they were going to win the whole thing. The Spurs beat them. But here's a key reason why I believe the Thunder lost, and that was their star, SGA. He really carried the load. He was very good, very consistent, trying to get all the fouls he could to keep going. But his bench, his supporting cast just did not deliver like they did the year before. And the Spurs did. And I believe that was the critical difference on both those teams. Why the Spurs won? and why the Thunder lost, especially if you're talking about game 7. Really, game 7 was the clearest one because it's the last one where the pressure's on. The role players just did not support OKC Thunder, whereas with the Spurs they did. So here I'm going to be very curious to see how the role players do, how the role players play for the Knicks, how the role players play for the Spurs. That's going to be a key thing because that's how you do it. You got to have that. And best part of the question for you, are you only focused on your stars? Or are you building very good complementary pieces to have that full package? That is the key. Culture lives in depth. I talk about this leadership. There needs to be multiple layers of leadership within the team. Everyone has to be aligned. Have a great culture and depth and a bench. The role players are super important. So before we go to the main 5 takeaways, I know you want to know my predictions, and this is where it kind of gets iffy. So I think it's kind of clear from Corpus Christi, Texas, it is Spurs country there. So I definitely have a bias towards the Spurs. I don't have any connection to New York City; it just seems very far away. But I'm very happy that the Knicks are there, and I do like both teams because they're very different. I do like a lot of things I see from Brunson. So if let's just put it this way, my heart says the Spurs. Okay. They have home court advantage. So if it does go to game 7, which I believe it will, it'll finish off in San Antonio. And I think if it goes 7 games, Spurs will win with that home court advantage. My heart goes there because I really like Wembanyama. I love what they're building. I like them a lot. My mind tells me the Knicks. They're very hot. Hot teams can be beat, but hot teams are hard to beat. And no one's beat them in 11 games. That's a very important statistic because their identity has been very clear, not only with the style that I've talked about, but they are very clear that we're winners. I think I mentioned there was one article I read that they got tired of losing these close games and they decided, let's not have close games anymore. Let's just blow them out. Then we don't have to worry about these close games. And they've won 11 games. Even when they were down 22 points against the Cavs in game 1, they came back and won in overtime. They have this drive to win. And so part of me, my mind tells me the Knicks. I also kind of went between Wembanyama and Brunson, and I said I'd rather have the guard who touches the ball every possession, who has a lot of experience and has this crazy competitive drive, which I really admire and I like because it reminds me of me. I'd rather have him right now for this series than Wembanyama, who's younger, who has a ceiling that no one can touch because he's so tall, right? So that's the way I'm looking at it right now. If you kind of had to put me in the corner, I'm here to enjoy watching and see what we've learned because you bet where I'm going to make some more episodes on these finals. But that's what I'm looking at right now. My mind tells me a hot team that hasn't lost 11 games, they're winners and they're going to go all the way, especially with a guard like Brunson. But I really do want the Spurs to win. So not a very good answer for you, but that's my answer right now. And let's just go on to the main takeaway so we can wrap up this episode of Be a Leader podcast. So here's my college basketball whiteboard. Hopefully you can read this fine, but here are the main takeaways for this episode. So the first one is build around one superpower. What is your main competitive advantage? Keep the main thing the main thing. Make sure it's front and center. Both teams have that on their 2 stars, with Jalen Brunson with the New York Knicks and Victor Wembanyama with the San Antonio Spurs. And they're very clear in how they built around them. But you got to know that competitive advantage and use it. When the Spurs lose, it's because Victor is not playing himself. He's not putting himself out there. He's not going hard enough. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one, build a clear identity, which is going to be the culture, right? Build a very clear identity. Both teams have very clear identities. And that leads into the third one. You hire the culture to match. The clear identity, clear behaviors, you get the results. And both teams have done that. So those are the first 3. The fourth one's succession planning before a crisis, I would believe is ideal. I think the Spurs did very well in that. Now, the Knicks is a counter example, but you're playing the odds there. It can be a challenge. And the fifth one is role players are critical for championships. I go again. Whoever's going to win this championship, the superpower has to do their part. But assuming both superpowers, both all-stars do their part, the key is going to be the role players. Which team has the better role players, the better depth, the better, those type of guys coming up. That's going to be the key. That's it's going to make the biggest difference in this NBA Finals here for 2026. So let's come back and roll back. Maybe a little bit too far from the whiteboard this time. Both the Knicks and the Spurs, 2 very different teams. However, they have clear identity. They have clear culture. They have clear purpose. The clarity is key. That is why it is the C in the core of confidence, under my confidence under pressure framework. They're clear. They're not fragmented. They're not confused. They're not trying to figure it out. They're not trying to do 5 things at once. They're very clear. And again, it goes back to the question, what type of team are you building? What type of individual are you building for yourself? Right? We all have the ability to build ourselves and our future and our teams. We have more power than we realize. So thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you like it. Please share it with someone else that can benefit either on the leadership side or the basketball side or whatever it is. Please share it because that helps, of course, spread these messages. And if nothing else, if you just like it or give it a 5-star review, it also helps share it because that's just the way things work these days with algorithms. I'd be curious, what are your thoughts? Who do you think is going to win? Why? Who are you rooting for? Who do you want to win? Who do you think is going to win? And with all that, I hope you enjoyed listening and watching this as much as I did making it. Remember, whether you're leading yourself, leading others, or leading leaders, be a leader. My name is Daniel Pineda. Thank you, and until next time.